Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be talking about a look ahead to the box office for Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and also all of the other films that are set to come out in the coming weeks, as there really aren't any major releases set to come out up until Venom, Let There Be Carnage, as far as, how much the film costs and how many theaters it's going to be available at. So we'll look ahead and go ahead and look at these numbers, but before going any further, please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. Boom! Got through it, baby. So, Venom, Let There Be Carnage will be the first film to talk about here, and it is expected to make, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, $45 to $65 million in its domestic opening. This is a film from Sony Pictures and Columbia, and this is then going to lead to an end result being of around $100 to $140 million in the domestic market. Now, if these numbers do hold, this would not be a very good number for the film, because even though we don't have an official production budget, we can assume that the film costs at least $150 million, based on the fact that it is a typical big budget comic book related movie, and those films usually don't cost any less than $150 million. So we're looking upwards of up to $200+ million. And then you have to add into account the fact that when you take into account marketing and the fact that this movie has been delayed several times, that also would indicate that the cost would actually go up more too. So having a lower number here, like $45 to $65 million, definitely is not a good look. Now, these numbers will, of course, adjust over time as we get closer to the actual release date, and this is not expected to come out until October 1st. And based on how close we are to October 1st, I would say that there's a good chance, at least, that Venom won't move again. So we'll have to wait and see. I know there's a lot of people who follow the channel who are very big fans of the first Venom film and are really looking forward at least to this movie. I really wasn't that drawn in by the first film. There's just something about Tom Hardy playing Eddie Brock that just doesn't really sit well with me. Again, a really big bulky guy playing a reporter. There's just kind of a cross-up that happens with me when it comes to that movie, and the CGI effects overall were also kind of lacking. I will say that based on the trailers for Let There Be Carnage, the CGI does look to be a little bit more polished, at least in that one scene that they show of him going into the convenience store. I thought that again looked pretty good for, again, comparison to the first film. So hopefully that is the case, but it also looks like there's going to be parts of the film that are going to kind of dive into the full-blown CGI action, CGI fest, which always drives me nuts in movies because normally it just doesn't look good. It looks like digital noise on screen. That being said, there's still a lot of people that are looking forward to it, so we'll see if this number adjusts down or up. Obviously, there are a lot of people saying, who would try and point out, saying, well, Shang-Chi did very well, and so therefore, isn't there this chance then that all the films going forward, all the big budget films going forward would do well? And I would say, there's a case to be made for it and against it. The big problem, of course, is that Shang-Chi was geared towards and directed towards a very specific audience that they tried to drive out to go see that movie. And this was not just what the studio did. It's also what all the people in the mainstream media also did as well, by constantly trying to, point out saying, Asian American lead and biggest Asian American ever film ever, first time ever Asian film ever nonsense, right? So free publicity from the likes of the mainstream media, and so it kind of had all of that help in order to kind of push the film over the edge. I doubt that Venom 2 will get that kind of love and that kind of respect because, let's just be honest here, Venom features a white male lead, and we know that in modern-day Hollywood, that is not something that is worth promoting, right? In the CRT world that we live in today, if you have anything that is not of a different ethnic background in any way whatsoever, you must be seen as less than or evil or in some ways, right, responsible for something. So I doubt that we're going to see the same type of love or push for Venom, whether it's good or not. And I think that's kind of the problem that we see in modern-day Hollywood and modern-day Hollywood news coverage, too, is that it doesn't matter if a film is objectively good or not. All that matters is the optics. All that matters is what the visuals are saying, and if we can try and essentially sway and push certain people, certain demographics out to go support a film. And what they've shown, what is again indicated at least by the numbers that we're seeing, is that they were able to convince a lot of people saying, hey, you should go see this film because there's an Asian lead and you might be Asian too, and so therefore that's why you should see it. There's no other reason really, but that's a big one. It's the biggest problem with identity politics, where you are again lowering the person, you are degrading the human person to just a race or just a gender. And when you do that kind of thing, you limit the human person so much, you really devalue the human dignity of that person so much that it really does lead to other bigger problems in the overall an overarching culture. So you're not going to really see that with Venom, which is why the box office probably will not be as impressive as it has been for Shang-Chi. But again, the numbers are still a little bit early here, so we'll have to wait and see. Of course, also with what happens with vaccine passports and vaccine mandates and everything, right? We still don't really have any major court decisions after the wake of, the president's supposed attempt to force people to get vaccinated or to at least be punished by having to be tested, and all this other, again, stuff that really is kind of scary when you think about it. Again, being forced to act against your conscience in many cases is just not a very good place to be. But again, that is something that is going to also have an impact because theaters have been really one of the first places that have been attacked when it comes to things getting limited or shut down, since it's inside, even though there's been no evidence at all that's been reported at this point of any connections of outbreaks or any connections of major outbreaks, especially connected to movie theaters in any way at any point during the pandemic. They are still the first places to really, be attacked in this way by having limitations put on it, putting spacing in it. So that, I think, could potentially have an impact on this film, because obviously every week that goes by is another week where you could have some more draconian measures be brought in, and that could have, again, an end result or an impact on the bottom line of this movie. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. And as you can see, there are some other films that are set to come out in the meantime. So films that I really don't know that much about. So The Many Saints of Newark, set to make $15 to $25 million. The Addams Family 2, which is the animated sequel to the first Addams Family that came out a few years ago, $12 to $22 million there. So for an animated film, really not all that impressive. Dear Evan Hansen, this is a Broadway musical that has now been adapted into a film. I remember when the first trailer came out for this, I didn't even know that they were making this as a movie, and the only thing I could think of was, man, the de-aging they're doing on the lead here just looks so artificially bad, and the hair that they chose, and again, it's a beautiful musical as far as the actual music is concerned and the story that it tells, and I think there's some really good messaging in it overall. However, I do have concerns about what the movie rendition is going to be and what messaging they're going to try and push with that. Not to mention, they decided to go with a bunch of major stars for some of the characters instead of actual trained singers and actors. So again, that also kind of concerns me because I do like musicals, and I would rather this be an actual faithful adaptation that's really good and has really good singers rather than, having the biggest name actor into it. As far as the biggest films coming out in the next week, we have Cop Shop coming out this weekend, and also Cry Macho. Cry Macho is the new film directed by Clint Eastwood. So obviously there's always speculation. Is this the last of the Clint Eastwood movies? This is set to make $7 to $12 million. And obviously a big part of that is the fact that it's not getting released into the 4,000 theaters that other major films have been getting. But also this is a day and date release on HBO Max as a Warner Brothers film. So this is actually a movie that I might actually get to go see, because as you all know, being full-time work and now also, of course, being a full-time dad after work as well, is again kind of making it more difficult to go see movies. But hey, it's worth it. But Cry Macho being available on HBO Max is definitely going to be a benefit for me, because that means that I have a better chance of actually seeing it, watching it, and reviewing it for the channel. So again, another Clint Eastwood film. Again, not expected to make that much money. That being said, Cry Macho probably doesn't cost all that much compared to other films. Yeah, I'm not saying that necessarily this is going to be one of the lower budget films that we've seen, but it's obviously not going to be the $150 million films that we've seen as of late. So theoretically, you could see it makes, but based on this estimates of $712 million and the fact that the studios only get 60% of the box office anyway, I would say that this film will probably end up being a financial loss for it. And if this is the last of the Clint Eastwood films, my only hope is that it's a good film and can get good word of mouth to be able to get some more support for it, and not to be a financial failure in any capacity for that very reason. Again, if it is indeed his last, because he's done some good stuff, even in his old age. He's done some bad stuff too, but hopefully this is one of the better ones. And then the other film to come out is Cop Shop. The only thing I know about this one is that it stars Gerard Butler. This is a film set to come out in 2,500 screens, so again, kind of limited release there. $2 to $7 million is their projection. So once again, a movie that probably won't make that much as far as actual net gains, net profits are concerned, but these are really the movies that are set to come out. And when you look to the release schedule, you see, we've got Cop Shop and Cry Macho. And Cry Macho is even, rather Cop Shop is being labeled as a wide release, but again, it's not being released in as many screens or as many theaters. After that, you have then Dear Evan Hansen, which is the next wide release there. You then also have October, which would have The Addams Family 2, the Jesus Music, don't even know that much about. They don't even have numbers for that film, The Many Saints of Newark, and then, of course, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, getting a release there as well. I believe that would be, again, an interesting weekend to follow because, you have very different audiences going to see Addams Family 2 versus Let There Be Carnage. You then have another God's Not Dead apparently coming out. Interesting. No Time to Die would be the next big one. That's the one that I'm waiting to see what the numbers are going to be as far as the projections are concerned, because this is one of the most expensive films to come out in the last couple of years. I mean, to an insane degree, most expensive film. So what this film makes worldwide is going to be, I think, huge for talking about the future of the box office going forward. But anyway, those are just, again, a few looks ahead of the movie set to come out this weekend and the numbers that they are likely going to make. So what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that Venom 2, Venom Let There Be Carnage, is going to be a financial success? Again, based on the fact that it is coming from a studio that is more likely to have that theatrically exclusive for at least 45 days, then it means that it's going to have the best chance to make money, or at least in a visible way, to be able to, kind of go up against whatever the budget of the film ends up being. But again, based on these early estimates, it doesn't look very good for the movie. And also, are there any other films that are set to come out in the coming weeks that you were looking forward to? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey. Again, it really does mean a lot. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my September Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. First with my Locals members, Cats App, D Sharp, It's a Modern Major General Story, Laura Bifford Hobbit, and Robert Barnes. I want to give a shout out to, especially to Laura, who is now a double supporter on Locals and on Patreon. So thank you for that. And to all of my Locals members. A shout out also to my Patreon members, Andrew Hoyle, animation commentator Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Garney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura the Modern Major General Story once again, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ullen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. And a shout out also to my Subscribe Star members, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting the channel. And I want to give a huge shout out to new members, one-time supporters over on Locals, Kara Tharp, K Tharp 56, and Brett D 90. Thank you again for being a one-time supporter over on Locals, and also to my newest Patreon member, Stan Gunovic. And hopefully I pronounced that correctly, but thank you for being my newest members. It really does mean a lot. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every single video or live stream on the main channel, please check out the links in the description below, specifically that top link, which will bring you to all of the links to my various social media pages and also places of support as well. And remember that if you join at the Army of Asgard level, you also get access to giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I have a live giveaway of Snatch on 4K Steelbook. I've also got ones for Dread, Wrath of Man Blu-ray. I've also got A Quiet Place Part 2 on 4K. I've got Top Gun on 4K, Sicario on 4K, tons of films and more to come, especially as more films are getting released for those giveaways. At the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. Not only do you get to listen to the podcast, you also get to ask questions that we answer as much as we can and as fully as we can in a much more, I guess you could say, uncensored way, but again, a much more free-flowing way for our members over there at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above. And if you join the Chosen of Valhalla level, you get access to all of those things, plus in your first month, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, and I send it to you no matter where you are in the world. And also, you get to once a month be featured on the channel in the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we talk about movie, news, and pretty much anything that you want to talk about. So if that all sounds like fun to you, check out those links below. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.